Welcome to Pinpoints, key points from top business webinars. The topic of this issue is Intelligence at Work, Recognizing and Developing It, highlighting takeaways from a webinar with spiritual intelligence expert Cindy Wigglesworth. Emotional intelligence is a set of skills. Those skills have to be developed through time. It is the same thing with spiritual intelligence. We are all innately spiritual, but we are not born spiritually intelligent because spiritual intelligence is a set of skills that, with time and practice, you can develop. But you do not have them unless you put the effort into developing them. There are 4 intelligences that are most relevant for leadership: IQ, common intelligence; EQ, emotional intelligence; SQ, spiritual intelligence; PQ, physical intelligence. You can be highly developed in some intelligences and not as well developed in others. These are the deep intelligences of leadership, ones that leaders need to develop so they can master their jobs. What are the most common character traits of spiritual leaders? People list loving, compassionate, humble, wise, courageous, faithful, forgiving, calm and centered, having high authenticity or integrity, being nonviolent, wonderful teachers, inspirational, great leaders, persistent in the face of difficulties, and seeing the gifts inside others. A metaphor that comes from Eastern tradition says, "Love is a bird with 2 wings. One wing is compassion, the other wing is wisdom. If either wing is broken, the bird cannot fly." Compassion is the best of the heart. Wisdom is the best of the mind. We have to bring our cognitive intelligences and our technical skill set, and we need to bring our emotional intelligences, empathy, and compassion to this problem if we're going to solve it in a loving way. Spiritual intelligence is acting with love, if you define love as compassion and wisdom. It is the ability to behave with wisdom and compassion while maintaining inner and outer peace, regardless of the situation. The second part of spiritual intelligence is often referred to as equanimity. We learn to use our impulse control mechanisms to not hit the other person who's driving us crazy. This is a really good skill. We're moving from empathy to compassion, which is a higher level set of skills. One of the skills in SQ is awareness of ego self and higher self. Essentially, the ego is the noisier voice. The higher self tends to be the quieter voice. One of the most critical things we have to learn how to do is to stop before we act. Not just react and jump in immediately, but to pause, even if it's just for a couple of seconds, and inquire, who's driving this choice? Is the reactive, fearful part of me making the choice? Or is the calmer, wiser, more mature part of me making the choice? One of the most important skills is being aware of the worldviews of other people. This requires that we deeply understand and put ourselves into the shoes of another person. The goal is to keep your higher self or your spiritual self in charge. The outcome includes being a wise and effective mentor, change agent, and leader, making compassionate and wise decisions, and being a calming and healing presence. The beginning of building SQ is between a stimulus, an event in your life, and your response. Your response could be a thought, an emotion, something you say or something you do. There tends to be no pause. There tends to be a habituated response that you just automatically do. Learning to insert a pause between the event and the response to the event is where your power occurs. In the pause is your power. In the pause is the ability to quiet for a second, even if it's just a couple of seconds, and ask your higher self, what would be the most mature and helpful thing for me to do in this situation? Let's take a look at 3 hypothetical people. The first is an individual contributor in a culture that doesn't really value EQ a whole lot. The person is healthy. There are no PQ issues, and the performance review indicates the person has some technical skill development needs, mostly around logic and being able to make good decisions. That ability to make good decisions is going to be affected by the ability to anticipate impacts on other people, which is mostly EQ and a little bit of SQ. The coaching priority might be, first, IQ skills, and second, EQ skills. In the second situation, you have a first-grade school teacher. She's very healthy, so her physical intelligence is not getting in the way. She is dealing with a lot of helicopter parents. The coaching priorities for this person are EQ skills, interpersonal skills, and SQ skills. the ability to refrain and see things differently, so she can stay calm and compassionate no matter what's going on. The final example is a C-suite executive who's facing a merger. He or she already has great EQ and IQ skills, but is just physically exhausted, and the exhaustion is getting in the way. The coaching priority here might be, number 1, finding a way to deal with some of the PQ issues, like having more sleep, and number 2, finding the SQ skills needed to help this person stay calm, wise, and peaceful in the face of crazy. Developing spiritual intelligence in all its many facets and expressions is a lifetime's growth project. But it's also something you can put into practice every day and see immediate results in situations that are challenging, frustrating, or caught up in old habit patterns. Cindy Wigglesworth is president and founder of Deep Change Incorporated, a company that is dedicated to helping individuals and organizations to integrate and access their deep intelligence. The feature webinar was produced by Soundview Live.